I am your host, Ashira Nelson, and this is Forum 360, where we have a global outlook from a local view. Youth violence is a global health pandemic problem. Worldwide, there have been over 200,000 homicides occurring amongst the youth ages 10 to 29 years of age, which is 42% of the total homicides globally each year. My guests today are Danny Solomon and Mikey Wells. They both are a part of Garden Valley Falcons football organization. Today we're going to discuss their community involvement and how it's making an impact within the inner city of Cleveland. Hey guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
Nice to have you guys on today.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for
I
having
know,
us.
I'm so excited to talk about the impact you guys are making, because you definitely don't get y'all flowers for the impact and how much dedication you guys have to the community. I am honored to watch you guys and honored for you guys to share your story with not just like the Cleveland, but now we're expanding it and sharing it with all of Ohio, to be honest. So we'll start. Tell me about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Danny Solomon. I'm the coordinator for the Garden Valley Falcons youth football program. So I've been coaching for 29 years, coming up on 30 years of coaching.
Woo, that's almost my age, y'all.
Right.
That's
So,
almost my age.
I stopped and think about it. The majority of my life I've been coaching and mentoring.
Wow.
I took over the program 21 years ago, so running the entire program. We have six tackle football teams from ages 5 to 14.
Wow. And what about you, Mikey?
I'm Michael Wells, youth football coach. I've been doing this 10 years. This is my 10th season. It would have been my 11th, but COVID stopped when we took a year off for COVID. Just giving back to the youth in the neighborhood that I grew up in. I'm actually a product of our environment, as they would say. I come from the Garden Valley neighborhood. I played for Garden Valley under Coach Boom, is what we call him. And I said, it's my 10th season in. Looking forward to see what it's going to bring us.
So, Danny, what made you become the coordinator and kind of step up into that role?
Well, so I was, I want to say at that point I had been coaching like 7-8 years. You know, they grabbed me right out of high school. They were starting up the team in the neighborhood. We had never had a team in the neighborhood, and they were starting up the team. I had just graduated high school. I didn't really have a plan on what I was doing. You know, I had some loose goals or whatever, but they needed volunteer coaches, so I started coaching. And my brother-in-law, Mikey's dad, he was one of the coaches too, so we both came in right away. About 8 years into it, the guy that was running it, he had some sons that were playing and they were going into high school. So he wanted to go and coach them in high school, and they needed somebody to take over. And the funny thing is, I was never a head coach before I took over the whole program. I was the assistant coach. But he saw something in the previous guy saw something in me that said, hey, I think you are the one I need to pass this on to take over, instead of the other guys that were the head coaches. So that was an interesting thing. It was
Definitely
an honor.
interesting.
Honor
Speaks
that
to
he
your
saw-
leadership.
It was an honor that he saw me in that light, but it was a lot of work. It's been a lot of work, continues to be a lot of work, but I was grateful that he saw that in me.
So, Mikey, how was your transition from a player to coach? When did you get started? What point of your life?
So kind of similar to Coach Boom. My first year out of high school, I went straight into coaching.
Okay.
It was like my first year was like a transitional thing. I was like kind of helping and getting my feet wet. And then once I started doing it, I just hit the ground running. It was something that I love to do. It's like a passion thing for me. When I wake up in the morning, it'd be like, all right, family, work, kids, football. Like it's like a daily routine for me.
Wow. So what age groups are you guys dealing with again?
All right, so we have teams starting at 5 all the way through 14.
Wow.
And there's like 6 different divisions
Within
based on
that.
the ages within that range. Yeah.
Wow. So how is it like really coaching in the neighborhood you grew up in? Do you find that to be easier to relate, or how is it for you guys?
So it's kind of twofold, right?
Okay.
So it is relatable. Like both of us grew up, my family grew up in that neighborhood. My grandmother lived in Garden Valley my whole life until she passed away. So we were always in that neighborhood. So it is relatable, and the kids know our family, so they know that we come from the same environment. We know what they can speak to, what they experiences are. So it is helpful, and it's easier from that aspect. But on the flip side, there's also all these other community issues and stuff that we have to combat. So that makes it tougher at the same time.
Yeah. How is it for you, kind of coaching in the neighborhood you grew up in?
It's kind of to piggyback off what Coach Boom said. It's like a win and a loss sometimes,
Okay.
and not so much as a loss and a bad thing, but it's like the stuff you got to deal with.
Yeah.
It's like we go out there, we put all these passion and we put all this energy and this love into these kids, and then it's kind of like a rotational thing. It's like once football over, the kids don't have the outlet that they have when they're younger. So it's like
Yeah.
we put all this effort and we put all this time into the kids and all this love, and then a couple years out of football, the kids turn and go the wrong direction. And my biggest thing and the reason I coach is because I want to change the curve.
Right.
All the kids and all the boys who I play with in football, they either dead or most of them incarcerated, or most of them just not walking down the street the right way they should be walking, because there's plenty of opportunities out here for young black men our age out of that neighborhood. Our neighborhood produced diamonds. It's like diamonds in the rough.
Right.
So I love to do it. It's like the passion to coach in my neighborhood it's like fire when I wake up in the morning. It's like, what kid can I change today? What kid can I help save today?
Okay. I know Garden Valley is a pretty rough neighborhood, but can we talk about some of the things that the players are experiencing outside or off the field? And let's just start there. So what are some of the things that your players are coming to you and kind of sharing?
So that's the tricky part, coming to us. So a lot of them they don't really know how to express the things that are going on in their life, the anger. And that's part of the thing as a mentor, as a coach. You have to really pay attention to what the kids are coming to practice with. Because if you think about it, football, that's something fun.
Right.
No kid is gonna come to the field with issues, because they're coming to have fun. It's a recreational thing or whatever. So when you come across a kid that has a quick temper, they're angry about something, they're not happy or whatever, they're fighting, you have to really pay attention and understand that this is their way of reaching out, or they don't really have a good way of expressing something that's going on. But you really have to pay attention and realize something may be going on with this kid, because he's fighting everybody, he's arguing, he's being disrespectful to the coaches or whatever. So
Okay. So Mikey, how do you deal with that? Do you pull the player to the side or kind of discuss it maybe towards the end of the practice?
See, with this being my 10th year and me actually growing as a coach, because anybody could coach, you could step on the field, but it takes time for growth.
Yeah.
You got to learn. And coaching with Coach Boom and him being my uncle and my mentor, a lot of the stuff he do, it passed down and trickled down to me, because I've always been under his wing.
Yeah.
And he taught me the way and shows me the way to deal with the kids in the neighborhood, because like you said, it's difficult. I had a situation where this past season, 2 players lost their parent.
Wow.
And it was like a reality check to myself. I had to ask myself, what could you do for these young men, to help give them that comfort they need that their parent gone?
Wow.
Because me personally, I never had to deal with that. So it's like, they call me and they look for advice and they look for guidance and they look for that male figure that they don't have. And I had to put my big boy shorts on and provide that for them, because this is what I signed up for. So it'd be like, shit, some nights when you get home, you want to drop a tear.
Yeah.
It's a difference. It get difficult, but it's a good difficult sometimes.
So how do you, speaking on when you leave practice, how do you guys just kind of leave it all on the field? Because you have to go home to your family and deal with a whole new set of problems.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of leave it on the field? Because you can't take all that back home.
This is a good one for Coach Boom. We talk about this a lot on the daily.
Yeah. So it's been a roller coaster of that dynamic because, you know, as a young guy, when I took over as the coordinator, my son was just born. He was a couple months old.
Oh, okay.
So I had to find that dynamic of the difference, the balance between that volunteer and, you know, giving my family what they needed on the back end. Now, I'll be the first to say I didn't do great with it at first because I was a young guy and I just knew how much the kids in Garden Valley needed me.
Right.
And I kind of, you know, I gave them an overwhelming amount of my time, and I wasn't the greatest at balancing my time between my family and that. So over the years, you know, and because of that, because I had stumbles with that and I had my issues with that, I make it a point to, you know, go over with my coaches and emphasize to them how important that home and like that relationship is, that balance is, because you can't give, you know, your family deserves, you know, your time too. They have their needs. You can't give an overwhelming amount of your time to the community. I mean, it's a noble thing. It's a great thing to want to do that, but there's consequences on the back end with your family if you don't have the right balance of that.
Good point.
Exactly.
Good point. Ooh, I mean, I'm just thinking about my work-life balance and then to add in a organization that you were devoting so much time to, knowing the need that the community need. Again, I commend you guys for your service because, whew.
And it took me a while. I used to have this thing. I used to have this belief that I could save everybody.
Yeah.
Now, Lord knows I tried, and it's still hard for me today to let go of somebody or to say, oh, I did everything I could do. You know, why wasn't I able to reach this kid or that kid? But it took me a while to really realize, you know, long as you're going into it with the you know, the attempt to do this, or your heart is in the right place. I try to deliver the right message to everybody. Not every kid you're not going to be able to reach every kid the same way. Not every kid is going to receive that message. So long as your heart is into it and you're doing it with the right intentions, over time I learned to accept, you know, the shortcomings and some of the failings that are going to come, because you can't save everybody.
Right.
Good point. So how do you feel, or do you feel like being a part of an organization provides like a sense of release from the things that the players are experiencing at home?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, me personally, I absolutely do believe that, because when you're a team and you're a part of something, it's a certain bond and a brotherhood, effort, and energy that you got to put into it.
Okay.
It's any team. It could be volleyball, baseball, chess. It doesn't matter. Like, you got to put a certain kind of effort and loyalty and stuff into teamwork and team play. If you don't put any effort in, or you don't put any loyalty in, you don't build that brotherhood and that special bond, and then you don't have a team. The team is only as strong as the weakest link. So when you're on a team, the job is to build up the team. You want to build the man next to you to be just as strong as the man in front of you. That's how a team works. That's how a train works. If a link is broke on the chain don't move. So that's kind of where you want to go, where you building the team and you getting on the team. You want everybody on the team to buy in to the team, and you want everybody on the team to feel like they're important and have their part and their play into the team. And that's, like I said, that's what get it rolling.
Okay. Well, I am your host, Ashira Nelson, and today my guests are Danny Solomon and Michael Wells. They're here talking about their involvement with the community and how they're making a huge impact in the city. So I want to switch gears and talk a little more about the mentoring aspect of your program.
Okay.
So do you have a designated mentoring style, or do you kind of advise your coaches to mentor based off their unique style?
Yeah, it's kind of the latter, right? So I don't have a specific, you know, template or agenda that I follow with the mentoring. Quite honestly, a lot of coaches don't always realize that they're mentoring when they're doing it. But I speak to that all the time. Anytime I'm introduced to a new person or whatever, we're talking about it, I tell people I'm a mentor that coaches football. Because football is kind of like the hook, you know, to get them in, and I chose football, and I think football resonated with me because I played all the sports as a youth. But football resonated with me because, when I started really understanding my purpose, there's more kids on the football team. You know, and there's all these multiple teams. That's more reach, more impact, or more kids you had the opportunity to impact. So that was a big reason why football resonated with me from a mentoring standpoint. But yeah, I just think once I think everybody kind of has a purpose, and I understood early enough that what my purpose was, and I think just being in that environment and seeing, like Coach Mike said earlier, how many of my friends and stuff that I grew up with in Garden Valley that just didn't make it.
Right.
You know, I remember I was living in Garden Valley when I graduated high school. I remember coming out of my apartment into the parking lot to go to my graduation with my cap and gown on, and like it was a parking lot full of people. None of them had graduated. Like none of them had any interest in graduating, and they like kind of applauded me like, you graduated, and it was like in my mind I was like, wow, that's an issue.
Yeah. Is this the minimum? Like,
graduating high school was never in doubt for me. That was like a given. That was going to happen. It was what I was going to do after that. But I didn't have. Thankfully, I had the kind of structure in my family that that was something that was going to be a given for me. But it really hit me that was a big deal for so many of them because that just wasn't their reality.
Right. This is just the standard.
Yeah.
In your household, but
so that showed me right away, even before I started coaching, that there was something there. There was a hole there. There was something that I could do to, maybe help bridge a gap there,
So Mikey, how would you describe your mentoring style? You being a little younger and possibly a little more close in age to the guys.
And that's what I was gonna say. That's kind of interesting that you said that. My youth, I could kind of relate to them more because I was just there.
Yeah.
I was just in their shoes. I was just their age. More recently than most of the coaches. Well, before now, I'm kind of up there in the coaching rank. Now this is my 10th year, but still though, it's like the kids. I feel like they can relate to me more. They follow me on Instagram. They know me in real life because they know I was there when they was growing up. I was there. I was outside playing with my friends when they was little kids, and then it's like I feel like I always had the gift to mentor.
Okay.
People always listen to me and relatively, sorry about that, follow me. And it's like, if I could have this many people listen to me and it's showing an impact, then I feel like, well, maybe mentoring is something for me. And then when I'm talking to my kids after practice, before practice, it's eyes on eyes.
Okay.
I see that they're listening. They understand where I'm coming from. And then it started to show. It started to show. My mentoring work, it started showing to my kids. I started seeing players who I previously coached or kids that I coach now, and I could see some of me in them. I could see some of my style in them, some of the things I told them. It's starting to show because they got the message I was trying to send.
Okay. So what life skills do you think are transferable from football?
Oh man, there's so many. And I think that's kind of the lost impact of football and team sports in general.
And I would say this question was one of the number one star that I wanted to emphasize during this interview because you guys are instilling in skills into these guys.
Right. It's so many things that transfer into life, teamwork, cooperation, structure, discipline. It's just a lot of stuff that being a part of the team and knowing that you're essential and how all the pieces fit together. In life, we don't do anything alone. Sometimes people like to think that, but it takes a lot of cooperation, a lot of discipline and structure to be successful in life, right? So those are definitely, I think, the top 3 transferable traits and things that they get from being a part of the team. And again, most of the time they don't even really realize they're getting that.
Right. So what was some, or who were your mentors growing up?
I go. So it's kind of funny. My biggest mentor growing up, honestly, is Coach Boone, which is my uncle, and kind of like a big brother. He was always in that corner for me, but he never sheltered me, as if my parents would. Like, if it was my fault, and Uncle Oz, it was my fault, he gonna let it be known. You 15, 16, I'm messing up. You about to be a man. Your parents, baby, you blah, 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 but when you get out here, it's gonna be like this. You know what I'm saying? When you run into this situation, it's gonna be like this. And then even as an adult, he still, like I said, he still mentor me. If he see me not handling something like a man supposed to handle it, I'm gonna let me know.
Do you feel like you do the same for your players now? Are you remembering that mentoring style and just instilling it back into your players?
Absolutely. Like Unc said earlier, it's a trickle-down effect. We a reflection of our coordinator on our coaching staff. We mimic what he do.
Okay.
He a good guy. He get a lot of love around the league, and we see that. So it's like his coaching style, his mentoring style. If we could do it how he do it, and we're in a good position, we're in good shape.
Okay.
So like I just take the trickle down effect. I look at Unc mentoring skills. I look at how Unc handles stuff with the kids and their life, and it kind of helps me.
Okay. Who would you say was one of your pivotal mentors growing up?
Probably my uncle, Earl.
Wow.
It's my cousin Earl Boykins. He was an NBA player.
Mm-hmm.
His dad, I spent a lot of time with him. His dad was a Cleveland police officer, just retired a few years ago, Cleveland police officer. But he was always that one. I was the oldest male on my side, on my mom's side of the family. So I didn't have any older cousins. I don't have an older brother or anything like that. So I was always looking for something like that, somebody like that to look up to from a male perspective. But yeah, I spent a lot of time with Uncle Earl. You know, we were always into sports. He took us all over the place, exposed us to a lot of, by him being a Cleveland police officer, he did
wow.
security for like the Browns games, the Cavs games, even wrestling. Like wrestling, I was a big wrestling fan when I was coming up. And he did security for like a lot of the wrestling events. We would get in free, like we would go in through the side door, and I met wrestlers and all kind of NBA players, NFL players, all growing up, and that was like really impactful. That he was always, and he always also on the rides to these places. Again, now in hindsight, me looking back on it, he always was spitting knowledge and giving us game on, you know, life and asking us questions and seeing how we reacted to certain things and then correcting us when we were wrong about certain things. And
Nice.
so I never really
And
knew
now
that he was
sounds
doing
like
that.
exactly what Mikey
Yeah,
said.
yeah.
The exact same thing, like the cycle
Yeah.
continues.
So my Uncle Earl was really, really impactful on me coming up.
Nice. So, are you guys still involved with past players? Because you said the program stopped at 14. So,
Yeah.
how is life or the relationship with past players?
So it's funny you mentioned that because my coaching staff, I think I have 18 volunteer coaches on my staff.
Okay.
Over half of them are former players.
Whoa.
They have come back, you know, including my nephew Mike. All of my head coaches are former players of mine, and then on the staff is, you know, a bunch of former players. So I get them, but I also all the time, you know, whether it's on Instagram inboxing, guys will just stop back down at the field because we still practicing in the same place, where in the same general area. It's a
Okay.
bunch of little fields down there, but they know where to find me, and they'll stop back down. They'll pull up on the field and say, "Oh, Coach Boom, you know, I remember this." They remember everything. Remember that game when this happened?
Every game,
Remember
every
this?
touchdown.
You know. It was a couple years where we had no money, and I wasn't able to buy trophies. You know, I have guys that played for me 20 years ago and say, "Remember that one year we didn't get a trophy, man?" I was like, "You still, you know." So so it is that. Now that's a very impactful thing because that goes to show you that you are being impactful. And for a player to come back to me, a former player, 15, 20 years later, and say, "I remember when you told us this after
Right.
this game. I remember on the ride to JFK for this game, you told me this." Sometimes
Wow.
I wish I had listened to what you told me. I didn't listen, and I ended up here. And had I listened to you, I would have went this way. But a lot of times it's the opposite way. It's I took some of the things you told me, Coach Boom, and I'm telling my son that. I tell my son this is how whatever, based on what I learned from you. So. You know,
How is it for you, Mikey, dealing with past players?
And it's kind of like a difference because the kids that I previously coached right now, they like early, mid-20s,
Okay.
max. Because I only been doing this, like I said, a decade. So it's like we got a different kind of bond. It's kind of like I'm big brother, I'm big homie now. They DM me, they ask me questions, they ask me for advice. And it's not like the advice I used to get when they was kids. It's more advice like, "Dang, Coach Mikey, how you manage to have your kids and your family and you still coach football, or how you do such a good job with your kids? Like, you got 5 daughters, how you take care of them?" And then be
okay.
like, I gotta let them know it ain't easy, but it could be done.
right.
You put
Okay,
your big
I
boy
like
shorts
that.
on, it could get done.
And that's real quick. I just want to mention, to piggyback on what Coach Mike said. A lot of these, you know, as the coordinator and the older guy on the staff, it was a lot of coaches that I was able to mentor, not just the kids. Because, you know, when I recruited these guys and they were younger, a lot of them didn't know that they could do it. They didn't feel like, "Oh, Coach Mike, I ain't a coach. I ain't a mentor. You know, I don't really got myself together or whatever." And it was an opportunity to give them some structure for them to grow as men to where now they can pass that knowledge and
Right.
that experience on to these players. now.
Absolutely.
Oh, good point. So how can viewers learn more about your organization or possibly donate?
Okay, so we of course we have all the donation methods, Cash App, PayPal, etc. Again, the name of the program is the Garden Valley Falcons. We are a member of the Cleveland Muni Football League. We have an Instagram page where you can contact us directly. Garden Valley Football is the tag. My name, again, you can reach me on Facebook and Instagram as well, Danny Solomon. But yeah, we have, Cash App, PayPal, any of those avenues for donations. Of course, we always take cash as well, checks and stuff like that. But yeah, that's how you can reach us.
So when is the season first game this year?
Okay, weekend kicks first week is August 20th and 21st.
Okay.
We play most of our games on Saturdays, but the league is huge. There's a huge amount of games, so there are games that kind of trickle over onto Sunday. So opening weekend, August 20th and 21st.
Okay, well, thank you guys. I appreciate
Thank
you guys
you.
coming on, speaking more about how you guys are making a valuable, much needed impact in the community. So thank you to my guests, Danny Solomon and Michael Wells, for being a guest, coming to talk about their story. This is Forum 360, where we have a global impact from a local view. I'll see you guys again next time.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.